When David and I go out for barbecue, we usually end up splitting a plate of meat and then we get our individual sides. So the debate is always, do we get brisket or do we get pulled pork? So today, we're gonna make both brisket and pulled pork. So we never have to decide again. We can just have both. Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter. I'm so glad you're here today. Let's get started. So I'm using recipes today from this cookbook. This will be the first recipes I've tried from this cookbook, but they sound pretty good. So we're gonna do barbecue brisket, which is on page 103, and we're gonna do wild hog pulled pork on page 148. Now it's important to note that Costco did not have any wild hog yesterday, but they did have pork shoulder, so that's what I'm using. And I am using brisket for the barbecue brisket. Had I not been filming this, I probably would have used a less expensive cut of meat. Probably chuck roast based on what they had yesterday. But because I'm doing it for you guys, brisket it is. All right, let's get going. Now I'm reading through Angie's book. She prefers hot packing, which means you cook the food at least partially first. You heat it up, bring it to temperature on the stove first. I prefer cold packing because it's a lot faster, a lot easier, a lot less mess, fewer dishes to clean. I don't have to move you guys from here to the stove. Anyway, we are going to cold pack today. Both of these meats are absolutely fine to do that. All of the ingredients are fine to do that. She has one recipe in here where she cold packs the meat and then hot packs the liquid. So we're just gonna cold pack everything, and it's gonna be fantastic, and it's gonna be easy, and it's gonna be on our shelf very soon. Let's get going. All right, so let's get what is essentially the braising liquid done for the pork first. So I'm gonna do this in a measuring cup so that it's easier just to pour into the jars when I'm done. There are quite a few ingredients in this, so let's go through this one by one. 1.5 cups of tomato sauce. So I have a 15-ounce can here. I'm just gonna put it all in. Okay. 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. This measuring cup is going to be large enough. I think it will. I know that's a dry measure I'm using for a liquid, but it is what it is. Okay, apple cider vinegar is done. 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire. You could, of course, use your own barbecue sauce or use a store-bought barbecue sauce if you prefer. I think I'm going to try this recipe, 1, because I want to try out this book, and 2, because it's different than my regular barbecue sauce. So anything that adds a little variety is a good thing. Okay, molasses is next. 1 tablespoon of molasses. Ooh, hello. I do love molasses. When you go to a barbecue joint in the South, you get your choice of meats, and then you get your choice of sides. And so sometimes they'll have sides like, corn on the cob or cornbread or whatever, but they always have coleslaw, baked beans, and Brunswick stew. So I've done a video on my Brunswick stew. If you haven't seen that, you should really look at that. It's really tasty. I think it goes on this side. I will link it up above. And I'm going to do baked beans next. So you'll see that one probably next week. So I'm excited to have those on the shelf. I'm not a big bean eater, but I do love some baked beans because, I'm a Southern girl. Okay, so we got our molasses in there. 2 tablespoons of prepared mustard. I'm not sure how much I really have in here, but I'm just going to use what we have. What a mess. Feels like a messy 2 tablespoons. Use that to stir. And 1/4 cup of honey. You could use maple syrup if you prefer that. You could do half and half. You could do brown sugar. All right, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Half a teaspoon of salt. Just use this. 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Kind of seems like a why bother, doesn't it? I may go with a little bit more than that because we like pepper. I used about half a teaspoon. 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. I love cloves, just love the smell of cloves. 1/4 teaspoon, so here we go. 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And a half teaspoon of cayenne. I just sent David out for cayenne yesterday. I was out, so let me get this opened. Stick a 1/4 teaspoon in here because it fits. This is optional. I think we're gonna like it in there. Cayenne is not, it's not one of the hottest ones. All right, let's get this stirred up. All right, so there were a bunch of ingredients there, but that was really pretty easy. So let's get this out of the way and start getting the meat into the jars. Okay, so the recipe uses 5 pounds of wild hog. So I have about, once I trimmed it, it was 5.15 pounds of pork shoulder. So you can see I did, they're so fatty. I trimmed off a good bit of the fat, but not all of it. So it'll be good for flavor, but it's also going to produce a little extra liquid. So I'm going to want to watch things when I start pouring in my liquid. So let's get this jarred up. So 7 pints on this one. So I'm going to do pints and half pints. So pints will be when we both agree we want pulled pork and we share one of these. And when we want to split it with some brisket, we'll open one of these. Okay, so before I put any meat in, I'm going to put a little bit of the sauce in the bottom because I'm not mixing the sauce and the meat. I want to make sure that it does get kind of throughout. I'm going to put some of these flatter pieces in my smaller jars. Make sure I get plenty in there. And the larger pieces will stick in the larger jars. So I did all of this cutting of the beef and pork yesterday. And I tell you what, that just makes canning day so much easier. So even if you're not filming your canning session, it is just, you know, I do it during the summer and I had just kind of gotten away from that. And it's so much easier to get all the prep work done the day before. Because this is going to go so quickly. So we are going for about a 1 inch headspace of meat, and in the liquid, because I have so much fat on here, I'm going to take it down a little bit from the 1 inch. I don't want the siphoning that the fat can cause. So we'll go for maybe 1.5 inches. You know, the meat is going to shrink down. All right. I'm going to do a smidge of debubbling with my spoon handle I was using before. Find that when you mix tomato sauce and fat, siphoning seems to be more of an issue. So let's see if we can keep this one from any siphoning. Okay, so let's get these cleaned up. These rims are going to be a mess with the barbecue sauce, although I tried to be careful. Had both canners out. They're cold. Cold water in them. Cold canners, cold jars, cold product inside. Everything's going to come up to temperature at the same time. This is the one that she had done as a hot pack. Oh, goodness. And so if we were doing it the way she does it as a hot pack, we would have a hot canner with hot water in it. Not boiling water, but hot water in it. Man, I really made a mess on this one. This is going to go for 75 minutes in the pressure canner. I'm going to wait to start them until after I have done the brisket, so that we can see where everything is going to fit the best. I have 2 pressure canners, the electric one over here, which will hold 7 of these, and in the All-American on the stove, that'll hold 8 of these. So I have 5 in pint jars and 4 in half-pint jars, so it made exactly 7 pints for me. So that I love about this recipe so far. It drives me nuts when they say it's going to make X number of jars, and it's way more, and you end up having to run a second can load to accommodate it, or it's far less than they said. So she gets points for that one so far. Let's see how she does on the brisket and the baked beans next time too. All right, now, because I think that the brisket and the pulled pork may look very similar when they come out of the canner, I'm going to put a little blue mark at the bottom here so I can tell which ones are pork. My guess is that I'll probably have to go back and look at the footage to remember which ones had the blue dot. But I'm putting the blue dot on the pork so that I can label it correctly when it comes out of the canner. So I'm going to mix them all up in the canners based on what fits. Okay, I'm going to set these aside, and we'll come back and we'll get the brisket done. All right, so let's talk about the brisket recipe for a second. It calls for 6 pounds of brisket, fat trimmed, and cut into 2-inch chunks. So I bought a 5.7 pound brisket, and by the time I was done taking off the fat cap, it is now 4.3 pounds. So I will probably not get the 9 pints that this recipe says it makes, but that's all right. I'll get what I get and love it. I'm going to go ahead and make the sauce based on the full recipe, and if there's any left over, then it's left over and we'll do something with it. But let's get started on that first. So I'm going to start with, it says 2/3 of a cup of tomato paste. Tomato paste, I think, is one of the best inventions ever. I will never end up making it myself because it is not only a great deal of work, but uses a great deal of tomatoes. And in my small garden, I just can't do that. But man, do I love to have this on the shelf. You can pretty much solve anything. Okay, so tomato paste is done, and then 3/4 of a cup of water. I'm gonna get out my fork. I have done a quick scrub down of my work surface and all my utensils and everything, but I am using the same utensils and measuring cup that I did before, so I don't dirty anything else. And so far, my kitchen is clean, which really never happens when I can, so, or when I cook, or, you know, whatever. But right now, it's kind of clean. So that's good. All right, so 4 teaspoons of Worcestershire. Just use it, this is a tablespoon. So it's about a tablespoon and a third. Makes 4 teaspoons. And 1.5 tablespoons of red wine. Okay. 1.5 tablespoons, yeah. I don't know why you couldn't use apple cider vinegar for this as well, or any other vinegar for that matter. Balsamic vinegar would be fantastic. Probably should have done that had I been thinking about it. 1.5 tablespoons of molasses. Molasses, 1.5 tablespoons of honey, the last sauce that she made on that pork is really terrific, so we're going to sing this one as too. On these sauces, you feel free to use what suits you in your sauces. None of these spices or seasonings or tomato sauce or anything like that has any issues being canned. So if you don't like something, leave it out. If you like something a lot, add more. Like if you like garlic a lot, you can add more garlic powder. We have 2 teaspoons of that. I'm going to use my 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm going to put in 4 of these. Okay. 2 teaspoons of onion powder. So 4 of these 1/2 teaspoons. 2, 3, 4. 2 teaspoons of ground mustard seeds. So I interpret that to be mustard powder. So I'm going to use 2 teaspoons. And I would say it can be yellow mustard powder, brown mustard powder. This just calls it mustard powder. Combine with water to release its flavor, it says on the package. All right, so I'm going to mix all of these together, a little dollop, and I think I'm going to do, I only have 4 pounds, so I might only get 5 pints out of this. So I know I want some 1/2 pints. We'll see. I always see the molasses on the side. All right, that is perfect. Now let's get the meat into the jars. 4.3 pounds So I'm thinking I'm only going to get 5 jars, or 5 pints, so 2, 3, 4, 5. Did that math work out? We're going to see. So I have 3 full pints and 4 half pints. We'll see how that goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 5 pints. So it'd be great if I got 6, but I'm not sure I will. Start with these. And just like I did with the pork, I put the flatter, smaller pieces in these small jars just to make sure I get it plenty well packed. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't put the sauce in the bottom. Let's do some of that. I'll just put it on the top here. Let's go over here. This is a chunkier sauce than the last one. Difference between the tomato paste and the smooth tomato sauce. And now let's get the meat in the jars. Okay, I don't know how that happened, but I managed to get, and they're not, frankly, filled all the way to the 1-inch mark, but I did manage to get 4 pint jars and 5 half pint jars out of the 4.63 pounds. So now let's get a little sauce in each of these. Okay, so I have a couple of these pint jars that are a little less full than I would like them to be from a headspace perspective. So I think I'm going to take one of these and divvy it up. All right, I think that was the right idea. So now I ended up with 6 pints total. So that's all right. Everybody looks good. A lot of cleanup to do on these. A lot of cleanup. So remember now, the meat is going to release some juices, both fat and just meat juices, liquid, and it's going to shrink down a little bit. But with the tomato-based sauce in here and the fat from the meat, I just don't want to push it. Siphoning is one of my least favorite things. You know, often the jars will still seal, and that's fine. You know, they can put them on the shelf, but you have a mess to clean up in the canner. Sometimes they don't seal, and you end up with having something for dinner you weren't expecting to have for dinner, which is fine. It's something we enjoy. However, I'm hoping I don't have any siphoning or any seals that don't work today. All right, so I have cold canners, cold water. Everybody's going in for 75 minutes. All right, those were some messy, messy rims. Messy cutting board as well. All right, let's get some lids. So barbecue is a big one for us to eat in the summer. You know, we do a lot of grilled stuff, but we also, say we're grilling steaks, we also kind of like if we're gonna be entertaining, like to have a barbecue option. I mean, a barbecue option. So I think we'll use this a lot for that. And David is just a huge barbecue fanatic, so he's really excited about this. All right. He's ready for a taste test. We'll see. I may make him wait until the end of the baked beans video for a taste test, but we'll see. Just going fingertip tight as always. All right, I'm going going to get these in the canner, and then we'll be back when they're done. Hopefully I'll be able to report that there was no siphoning, but it happens. So that's all right, we'll deal with it. All right, I'm going to get these in the canner. We'll come back. All right, today's the big taste test. We're going to get to that in a minute. I wanted to kind of give you an after action report first. Let me show you how they look. This is the beef brisket, barbecue brisket. This is the pulled pork. So I will tell you that many of my little dots on the pork came off in the canner, which is odd. But anyway, I was able to tell the difference because of the big fat cap and the slightly different color. So all turned out okay in the end. There was a very minor amount of siphoning. There was no discoloration in the water, but there was kind of a greasy film on the outside of the jars. So I didn't have any issue as far as I can tell with headspace or anything like that. And there was no red, orange tomato sauce kind of thing in the water. So I think it was just a little bit, everything sealed, and I think we're good to go. So let's see how it tastes. Back in a sec. All right, it's the moment David has been waiting for. So we have barbecue brisket on the side.
Yum.
And we have pulled pork on this side.
Yum again.
Okay, so you're doing this without hot sauce, which is, like hard for him.
Yeah, that's hard. I like hot sauce.
But we're just gonna taste it for flavor. Now this is not my barbecue sauce in here. This is part of the recipe. So we're tasting for flavor on the sauce as well as the meat.
Okay.
Okay, which one do you want to try first?
This one.
Okay, that's the brisket.
I love brisket.
Yep, don't spill anywhere.
Yeah, you know that. Very good.
Okay.
We need some hot sauce.
No kidding. Okay, I'll try this one too. Right. So the serving size in each of these bowls, I should show you, this came out of a half pint, and that would be plenty for me. I'm not sure it would be enough for David.
Oh yeah, well, that's a lot of food.
Would it be enough for you?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. Right? Pulled pork. This is pulled pork.
A little tastier.
You like that one better?
Uh-huh.
Or do you like the sauce or the meat?
Oh, both.
Both?
Yeah. It's got a little more flavor to it,
I definitely like the sauce better on the pulled pork, but I think I like the brisket, the meat part better. Not the sauce, but the meat part better.
Right.
Okay, so what would be your choice? Let's say that we were going to a barbecue joint like we usually do, and we split some meat, and we either split pork or brisket. Which one what would be your choice?
Of these two, it'd be the pork.
The pork.
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It's a little tastier.
Okay. I'm not sure for me. It might be the barbecue brisket because I can fix the flavor with barbecue sauce. It just needs a little more, it definitely needs more salt, but it needs a little more oomph to the sauce.
Yeah, it's kind of bland.
But the meat's really tender.
The meat's good.
Yeah.
But the overall flavor is kind of bland.
Okay.
This has more flavor.
Yes, it does. Okay.
Which you know me.
All right, so don't forget that the next episode we're going to do is on the baked beans from the same recipe book. So be sure to come back for that. So thank you so much for being here today. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment. YouTube says it really, really helps the channel, so I appreciate it so much. See you next time. Bye-bye. All right, so before David eats all this, I'm going to remind you that the next video coming up is baked beans from the same cookbook. So be sure to come back for that one. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time. Bye-bye. I have to ask for them to subscribe. I always forget to do that. All right, so don't forget that the next episode we're going to do is on the baked beans from the same recipe book. So be sure to come back for that. I'm about to make David do a little taste test on them right now.
Good.
I had something else I was going to say.
You want them to subscribe.
Oh. So thank you so much for being here today. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment. YouTube says it really, really helps the channel, so I appreciate it so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.